relevant today?
Is it really objective truth, or is it true to say everyone has their own truth?
Why are we losing our religion? You may need to read the Bible, but I know right from wrong.
These people who say, I don't need faith, I can be a good person, can they?
Does religion even matter? Watch Irreligious Nation at salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
Mike Gallagher says we need to stay sharp.
I pointed out that expelling the two black Democrats in Tennessee, it's a mistake. It sets these two black legislators in the state legislature in Tennessee up to be heroes. It's going to backfire. And Republicans can't afford missteps right now. We got to be on our A game.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekday mornings at 6, right before Dennis Prager at 9 and 8:60 a.m. The Answer.
With SRN News, I'm Tasha Stevens. Republican lawmakers want to know why a group of Catholic priests was barred from the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center just before Easter week services. Clergy from Holy Name College, a community of Franciscan Catholic priests and brothers, were told earlier in the month they would no longer be permitted access for religious services. There's now a burn bra challenge on TikTok for biological women who want to destroy their Nike sports bras after the company hired a man to promote the company's sports bras, the same man whose endorsement for Bud Light caused that company to lose over $6 billion on the stock market. President Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security will release as many as 30,000 illegal immigrants into the U.S. each month using a mobile app. Illegal immigrants will be allowed to schedule appointments at the southern border ahead of their arrival at any of 8 ports of entry. This is SRN.
Working radio show in the business. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. Just in closing on this topic, Stephen, and we have a lot of other topics to cover, how can people learn more about the film and support it? And is it going to be in theaters, Steve?
We're going to be in about 1,000 theaters to open this weekend, despite the fact there are 6 movies opening this weekend on top of all the other films that are out there. But the theaters have seen so much activity, demand for the movie, so many pre-sale tickets sold that we're still going to be in close to 1,000 theaters. You can find out which theater near you and get tickets at nefariousTickets.com. That's nefariousTickets.com.
Okay, so let's talk. Ooh, there's a lot going on right now. The trans thing is definitely one of the biggest issues facing America. Most pastors are too cowardly and too weak to engage in this issue. My team tells me you have an opinion on the Dylan Mulvaney stuff, and we can go from there. What is your take? And I'd love to hear it.
I think that we are beyond virtue signals. I think that we're beyond now the obnoxious pandering every June during quote-unquote Pride Month.
Oh,
so now we've got to have rainbow Oreos.
It's just, I'm sorry to interrupt. You got Juneteenth, and you got, I mean, really? We don't have enough?
Yeah.
All right, jeez.
June has essentially become Pander Month in America. I think this is religious zeal. I don't think Budweiser didn't vet the marketing coordinator that they brought in. I think that this is a recognition of ecclesiastical authority. It's just a different religion. Dylan Mulvaney showed up at the White House. Dylan Mulvaney is anointed. He's a prophet, he's a priest or an apostle, and we don't recognize it in Christianity anymore because we don't really respect God's authority, let alone ecclesiastical or scriptural authority. We're kind of just, reducing God down to a buddy and what makes us feel good. So we don't really recognize this sort of commitment, conviction, and zeal any longer in our Pleasant Valley Sunday experience. But that's what it looks like. This is just a demonic variation of it. All these companies didn't just, I think, get immediately and simultaneously dumb. I think that the memo went out. This is our anointed. This is our prophet, our priest, our apostle. Dylan Mulvaney recognized. And they did. And they genuflected accordingly. And the money they've lost, the billions they've lost, those are sacrifices that you make, whether it's in the Valley of Ben Hinnon to Molech or whether it's to the spirit of the age of corporatism. But you do this to show that you are one of the special. You're in the group. This is how cults behave. And I think that's what you're
let
watching.
me ask you then. So, Steve, is it fair to say then that that ideology is more important than what Christ also warned us about, which is the thing, isn't it? Because it's not actually in their best profit material interest to do this. So help me make sense of that.
The love of money is a basic carnal instinct.
Yes.
That's a basic form of a manifestation of human sin. A basic form. Let me give you another example, if you don't mind. Okay. And so I've got 3 kids. The youngest is 16. And when I was growing up, our parents were scared to death that we were going to be fornicating. All right. Things have gotten so warped and depraved now that when you catch your teenager fornicating now, Charlie, you're almost relieved. Okay, they're not gay, they're not trans. That's a basic sin. I can deal with that. Basic sinfulness. We wrestle with that in our generation. Teenage hormones. We can handle that. Okay? That's what the craven love of mammon is. A basic level of carnality. What I'm talking about is you're given over to a different form of worship now. You're not a sinner. You're not a skeptic. You're in unbelief territory. Your heart has been hardened to truth. You no longer can be shamed by your morality. You have embraced a whole new religious rubric and metric now. You're giving sacrifices to another god. And since there aren't any other gods, we're really talking about darkness and demonics here. That's what I think we are dealing with. I think we started off with pandering, and that's what Pride Month and Rainbow Oreos and Rainbow Twizzlers and everything else became. We're now, though, moving on into we must now genuflect and recognize the true authority.
Well, 2 thoughts. I think that there's going to be kind of a rebellious attitude this June towards the gay pride flags. I mean, like, I just think people are really going to be having enough of it. I will be interested to see, and obviously, it's every time stay peaceful, don't do it. But I mean, honestly, like, I could just see somebody just being like, screw you. Like, I'm not going to go into your coffee shop because you have the trans flag, right? I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to move on to somewhere else. And so that's number 1. Number 2, it's interesting you say that, Steve. I was struck once by a private conversation recently in the last 6 months of a Christian parent that came up, and they said, Charlie, there's an issue, but I'm actually really relieved. You know, I happened to stumble upon my 19-year-old watching pornography, but at least it wasn't gay pornography, so I was really relieved. I was like, okay, you have a very serious problem here, and the fact that that's a moment of relief, is that similar to what you were saying?
Yes. Yeah, this is where we go beyond the base. Sin, in its natural form, is a warping of the desires that God puts, right? Separated from His will. The desire for the other sex, the desire for sexual pleasure, the desire to perpetuate the species. Separated from His will, we use that to sin. The desire for achievement, the desire for significance, the desire to provide and protect for my family. Separated from Him, that in His will, that can become greed and materialism. Right? Those are basic manifestations of human sin. What I'm talking about now is when you take the next step down, and you are embracing a whole different ethical system, a whole different morality, because you are worshiping a different God, a different value system, meaning that you're not in conflict with God's will any longer. You're rejecting it.
And that's it. So I have a working hypothesis speech I'm giving across the country, Steve. It's nothing. There's other people that have written it, so it's just a variation on other good ideas. But there's about 5 fake religions. What you're arguing is that we're returning to kind of the pagan river civilization.
Yes.
That the 5 books of Moses were written as a refutation of, right? Which is this idea of monotheism, one God, the wholeness of God. That polytheism and paganism is actually the norm. The Aztecs, the Incans, the Mayans, the Chinese, right? The Far East. It's almost as if I think it's natural, but monotheism is not natural. That's what we're learning, actually.
Right. Correct. We are in a post-Christian West now. Post-Christian. So, what will the post-Christian West look like? What the pre-Christian West look like? Pagan. It'll be pagan in origin. And so what today's progressives really are, they're regressives. Their desire really is to take us not forward in time, but back in time to a pre-biblical, pre-Pentateuch, pre-canon, pre-Judeo-Christian understanding of the world. Before God raises Moses up to call a nation to himself apart from the rest of the world before God sends his son for a new covenant now to bring all the nations to him separate from the rest of the world. What was the world like?
No, that's right. The world and the 10 plagues, each one of them was a middle finger to a fake
a
god.
repudiation of the Egyptian religion.
Yeah, there was a fake god, the fake god of Ra, the sun god, the fake worshiping of the Nile, when the Nile
right.
turned, blood red. And so Steve, this is a fascinating conversation I don't think most Christians grasp. Some will say that we're in a spiritual war, but they don't quite recognize that it's the return of the old gods. Now, let me be very clear. We mean small g, not big G gods.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the Daily Wire with Jordan Peterson and Dennis Prager, and they wasted 10 minutes, in my opinion, debating whether or not we think they're gods. We don't think they're gods. We think that they are not omniscient, they're not omnipresent, they did not create the world, but we think people treat them as gods. Therefore, we use that vocabulary. Explain that a little bit, and then talk about what are these things. And I think they're almost being pseudo-resurrected now into the West. Earth worship, religion of anti-racism, the religion of tolerance. This is nothing new. It is reconfigured, repurposed, old river civilization beliefs that are now considered to be breakthroughs of modernity.
That's a great point. Solomon writes, there is nothing new under the sun. Steve Deace will add, only new people under the sun who haven't seen it yet. Okay, the devil has a catalog, and it's not an extensive album list. He's not the Rolling Stones. It's really just a greatest hits list, like the Eagles. The same 10 or 12 songs. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows the words. No matter how old you are in this audience, you know the words to Hotel California. Everybody knows the words. Okay, he just re-racks the same songs over and over again. One of the things that I point out in a Nefarious Plot is that all the things that was done to America is what they've done to other civilizations. They just had to do it differently to America because America was structured different than other civilizations. Instead of a government that declared it was God or had the right to rule you from God, America said our rights come from God, and therefore government has to honor that same God. So they had to structure how they deceive and tempt differently, but it was all the same monikers they have used in the past, because all these are things that appeal to our own vanity, to our own desires, to our own sins. James says you're not tempted by anything except that which you actually want. I'm not tempted by drugs. I'm not interested in that. I'm not tempted by becoming an alcoholic. What tempts me? I love women. I've got to be careful with that. That's what I'm tempted by. And so we're only tempted by the things that we actually want. And that's what these things do. They appeal to us. Because here's the thing that Nefarious reveals in both the movie and in the book. Hell's desire, Satan's desire to say, I am like God, I will be like the Most High, is rivaled only by our own. That's really the great contest between us and the enemy, is in our sinful state, who is the... And when people say, well, I get to pick and choose which part of a religion I want to worship and which part I don't, which part I want to obey and which part I don't, which part of the Bible I think is still true and which part is not. You are anointing yourself into godhood. That is the language of the enemy. And when we start doing that, now we move from the pagan Charlie to the satanic. Now we're not just warping heavenly things into godlike status. We are now elevating ourselves into that status.
I think we can agree that pagan is a sister or a cousin of the satanic, of the Luciferian. And it's an interesting question. I think the film is brilliant because it takes an atheist. Like, okay, you're an atheist. You might not believe in God, but you believe in Satan. Of course I do. Okay. That's the premise of the film, right? When confronted. And look, Satan seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. It's why he's here. I'm going to ask you more questions on that after the break. But check out Nefarious, the movie. We are living in spiritual darkness in many ways. Paul called Satan the prince of this world, the god of this world. Jesus called him the prince of this world. As C.S. Lewis said, we are in enemy-occupied territory. And we need to launch a sabotage campaign, C.S. Lewis said, against the enemy's occupation say right there, Steve, I want to tell our audience about Rough Greens. Go to ruffgreens.com, roughgreens.com. You've heard me talk about Rough Greens and how it is literally helping thousands of dogs feel better and live longer, including Mr. Briggs, who loves it, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, who created Rough Greens, is also an airborne ranger, Green Beret, and Vietnam-era helicopter pilot. You must understand dog food is dead food. You sprinkle it over your dog's food. Rough Greens has essential vitamins and minerals, omega oils, digestive enzymes. Dr. Black and his dogs are offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. Get your free Jumpstart trial bag. All you have to do is cover shipping, and you do not have to change your dog's food. Just add a small scoop of Rough Greens. Go to roughgreens.com/Kirk. That is ruffgreens.com/Kirk. roughgreens.com/Kirk. ruffgreens.com/Kirk. Get your free Jumpstart trial bag. Go to roughgreens.com/Kirk. roughgreens.com/Kirk. Terrific company. Free Jumpstart trial bag. If you love your dog, you should go to roughgreens.com/Kirk. I forgot to tell you guys about Preborn. I'm going to do that after the break. Steve Dates continues with us. Nefarious movie. Check it out. We'll be right back.
This is Dennis Prager inviting you to join me for a memorable travel opportunity that will be a highlight of your life. Mike Gallagher and I are headed again back to Israel in October for the Stand with Israel tour. Join us along with our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. We'll visit key sites in the Holy Land thoughtfully designed to give you unprecedented access to a region you may have only read about. Visit standwithisraeltour.com for details. We'll uncover important geopolitical sites and show you Israel's significance on the world stage. You'll set foot on the ancient streets of Jerusalem, sail the Sea of Galilee, pray at the Western Wall, and much more. We'll have guides specifically for our group, lavish accommodations, and I will even broadcast my show from Israel. No other trip will be like the Stand with Israel tour. Come with Mike Gallagher and me this October. Register today. Call 855-565-5519, or just go to standwithisraeltour.com, standwithisraeltour.com.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. We've heard a lot about Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's Catholic faith. So where were they last week? During the holiest time in the Christian year, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, America's largest military hospital, ordered Catholic priests to halt religious services on its grounds right before Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter. A community Franciscan priest who served soldiers at the center for almost 20 years were terminated, with their contract awarded instead to a secular firm. Cost differences between the two are reportedly de minimis. The bigger problem
residential property owners transition their portfolios into commercial assets leased to tenants such as Walgreens, Starbucks, and the U.S. government. These properties offer around 3 times the cash flow of a single-family investment, and all expenses are paid by the tenant. If you'd like to know more, visit Hagar.group. That's HAGAR.group.
What aren't we being told? COVID-19 scenario about covert climate engineering operations that are wreaking havoc with weather all over the world, about the totality of unfolding and accelerating global environmental collapse. If you're willing to face and investigate shocking, verifiable realities that mainstream media sources and their distract and divide talking heads will never tell you, tune into the commercial-free, non-political Global Alert News Hour, Sunday, 4 p.m. on AM 860, The Answer. This is Dave Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org.
Preborn is a nation's organization. If you're pro-life, you should have to give money to Preborn. Would you introduce a girl to her baby by providing an ultrasound? More than 85% of the time, she will choose life. 5, mother to 3 ultrasound,